on the open society. Here I'm alluding to a book by Karl Popper, which I read when I was quite young, called The Open Society and Its Enemies. As I recall it, the book was a strong attack on a certain theme in political theory, in particular Plato among the Greeks and Karl Marx in recent times. And Popper alleged that these were systems builders. They were people who put forth a philosophy which was so rigid and encompassing that it crushed openness. He valued freedom of thought, freedom of action, and so on, and spent much of his life combating that. He saw it in ancient philosophies, and he saw it particularly in recent events in Eastern Europe, where communism, he was writing in the 50s, 60s, and a little earlier, where communism was widespread and was making a conformity which banned many thoughts, particularly anything critical, anything creative, and Popper was strongly against that. Now, all of us, I suppose, in the West subscribe vaguely to his liberal view that we should have an open society. You should be able to say what you like and within reason do what you like. And we condemn other civilizations and societies. Nowadays, it's an accusation made against places like Russia or China, Iran, and so on. It's not quite as simple as that, though. Take freedom of speech. I would say, yes, of course, you can say what you like in our society, whereas you can't in these other societies. And yet, as I've observed it, it's clear that in somewhere like China and Russia, there are areas which you can't talk about much. Certain historical events, certain politicians, which it's prohibited or dangerous to bring up. So there is a bounded area of politics. Otherwise, to take my experience in China, you can talk about almost anything. You can talk about democracy, you can talk about civil society, you can talk about Hong Kong. It's the way you talk about it. If you do it in an aggressive and drum-beating way to try and raise opposition to the Central Party, you may get into trouble. But I've lectured on all these subjects and talked to many officials and others about them. No worry. And you can talk about any other subjects. You can talk about sex, gender, religion, other subjects very easily. When you look at the West, we now have a huge area where we cannot talk about. There are many areas of race, gender, class, bodily styles, which, if you talk about them using certain words, you're in real trouble. If you use the N word and I can't use it, in race, if you assert that women are born inferior to men, if you say that homosexuality should be made a crime, if you denigrate the Jewish people, all these things can lead you into serious trouble. So openness, one begins to realize, is relative. There are open areas, there are other areas that aren't open, and it's a constant struggle and battle. And an open and free press obviously is one of the areas which should preserve this. But even looking at our own press in this country, I can see that it's not open. the major television channels I watch appear to be open, and yet I can see they are highly biased, and their coverage is very circumspect because they are subject to political control, and if they go out of line too much, then they are accused of bias and their funding is cut. So while finding the theory very interesting that there are more and or less open philosophical systems, I find it not black and white as to where now are the true open societies.